demo, I'm going to go over spot colors a little bit, color separations, um, using an image, and kind of in terms of Riso printing. So imagery and documents are best set up using spot colors. In this case, Pantone colors is what we're going to use. And I will show you how to best utilize that for your poster. And I'll give you a couple examples here of how to change this image or an image that you choose into two colors using Pantone spot colors. So I created a library. These are the 4 colors available, and each one of them has a Pantone color associated with it, and it's the closest one that matches the actual risograph color. I will export this library and I will put it on the drive, and so you'll download that. And if you don't show libraries here on your Photoshop, you can go to Windows and then Libraries, and then it'll show this little like book looking icon, and that's your libraries. And then you will hit this little icon, import library, find wherever you saved it and import it, and then you'll have access to this. Okay, cool. So once you've got the colors in there, you want to have them available in your swatches. So an easy way to do that is to just click each color, and now it's got them in your recently used swatches, so they're available to use. For some reason, when you're using or attributing spot colors, it doesn't like to draw from libraries. It has to be drawn from swatches. So anyways, that's kind of a workaround for that. Okay, cool. So put your image in Photoshop. That's the first step. Get the Riso colors libraries, and then the first method I'm going to do or show you is using CMYK color space and converting that into spot colors. So you'll go to Image, Mode, and then CMYK color. If it's not already on that, which it probably isn't, hit OK. Cool. So now instead of RGB color space, it is in CMYK. So the next thing you're going to want to do is make sure you've got the channels window available. So again, if it's not on your Photoshop, you'll go to Window and then hit Channels. And basically what this is doing is splitting up this image into CMYK, which is cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. So if you were to kind of look through these, you can see it's attributed different parts of the image to that specific color space, which is super helpful for what we are going to be doing. So basically, since we're only working with 2 colors, you have to convert this into 2 colors instead of 4 colors. So the next step is to go to Mode again and hit Multi-Channel. Cool. So now this is not really, it's still CMYK, but it's taken those 4 color channels and it's made them editable. So now we can change them however we want to. So if you want to change cyan to seafoam, double click that, go over to your swatches, click seafoam, hit OK, and maybe we want magenta to be fluorescent pink, so we'll do that. Maybe yellow is also seafoam, because that's probably the closest out of the 2. And then black, we'll just try fluorescent pink. Let's see what that looks like. Alright, so that looks pretty cool. So now we're working with only 2 colors, seafoam and fluorescent pink. So you can kind of swap those out however you want to. We're basically just converting these into spot colors. It's kind of a clumsy way to do it since we're having to go from 4 colors to 2, but it works pretty well. And in my opinion, it works better than doing a duotone, which I will also show you how to do. It just kind of depends on what you want. Now, they do make really cool, they're called color profiles that you can buy specifically for risograph printing. And if you were to go back, I'll go back to the original image. They're kind of spendy. They're like $60 each, but that's another option. You can change. Oops, you can change, like convert to a profile. And so like I've got a profile red and turquoise, so it automatically converts that image into Pantone red and Pantone 3272, which is turquoise equivalent in Riso colors. So that's kind of the cleanest method for Riso printing, but like I said, it's kind of spendy, and to me this seems to be the best alternative. It just really depends on what kind of quality image you're trying to get out of the deal. Okay, so let me redo all of this. And you can also, I mean, feel free to like play around with this however you want to. Like maybe you like it better without the black. Maybe you like it better just these 3 colors. It doesn't really matter. You can delete channels or change channels, whatever you want to do is up to you. So once you've kind of got that sorted, also I guess I don't know if I specified this, but to change the color you just double click the picture and it pops this up. I don't know if I was clear on that, but to clarify anyways, you just double click whichever one you want to change. And it's super important to not just pick a color from the color picker, because that is not a spot color. It's going to read that as probably CMYK color space, which isn't going to help at all. So make sure you put those Pantone colors in the swatch panel. Super important for what we're doing. It'll make your life a lot easier. So once you've attributed all of your channels to your 2 colors, now the important part is naming the channels. So when we import this image into InDesign, it will rely on the name of what the channel is more than what you've actually changed the channel color to, if that makes sense. So if I change this one to Seafoam, or whatever its Pantone equivalent is, Pantone 570U, but I put the name as blue, Pantone 3005U, when I import this into InDesign, it will read that name and it will like think it's that color. So it's super, super important that you change the name. And yes, it's a pain in the butt, but you have to manually import the name. And in the libraries, you can hover over the swatches and it shows Seafoam, and then it shows spot color, Pantone 570U. So you can access it that way. So I'm going to change these names. Let's see, pink is 806U. Change that. 806. And then change the last one. Cool. So now this image is 2 colors. We've converted it. And basically now we just have to save this as a file that recognizes color separations. And the best way to do that is to go to File, Save As, and then I'll just, I guess it doesn't really matter. Format, you'll go down to Format, and then you'll hit Photoshop DCS. And what DCS stands for is desktop color separation. And so what that means is that this file is specific for color separations. It will be able to read that there are spot colors, that the document needs to be able to be read separately, and it's super important that you save it as a DCS. Super, super important. And that will save it as an EPS file. So you make sure you've got spot colors checked and name it whatever you want, whatever makes it easiest for you. I'll name it test since I'll do it test multi since we did multi-channel. And I will show you what that looks like when it's imported into InDesign on the next demo. But then you'll hit save. This is all fine. I just do a single file DCS, that's fine. You don't need to include a halftone screen. That's for like if you're wanting to do screen printing. This is also super handy for that. Don't worry about checking any of these boxes. And if your screen looks like this, you're good to go. Hit OK. Boom. Now you're saved. Cool. Okay, so that's option one. One option on manipulating a photo into two colors. I will now show you, I'll go back to the beginning, option two. Option two is much simpler, I would say, but maybe the results aren't quite as smooth. I don't know. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, so we're going to change this into a duotone. And a duotone is two tones, is basically what it is. There's monotone, duotone, tritone. It goes on, but essentially it's just converting one full color image into two colors. And first you go to image, mode, and then you convert it into a grayscale. So this is why duotone is a little bit more clunky, or maybe not as precise, because it's converting a grayscale image into two colors. So it's essentially only working with highlights, midtones, and shadows. You kind of lose a lot of the nuances of like the color mixing that you get when you convert with a CMYK, like we did the first one. But there's also a lot of cool, I don't know, just kind of depends on what look you're going for. So next you'll go to image, mode, and then duotone. Cool. So right now it's set as a monotone, but we want duotone. And kind of like we did with the first one, we're going to utilize our swatches. So maybe the first one I want to be seafoam. Second one, I don't know, maybe pink. And kind of the same thing, you'll need to specify your colors here. So Pantone 116U. And this one was Pantone 806U, I think. Oh, oops. What was that again? Pantone 116U. Okay. Cool. So now it's a duotone. I'll go back into that screen. So right now it's mixing these two colors directly. And you can go into the curves and you can change it. Oops, hit preview. So I know what I'm doing. So you can kind of mess around with that. You can just completely invert the two. So maybe you want this one to be all the highlights. You want the pink to be all the shadows, or vice versa. Or maybe you want them to mix a little bit. I'm definitely not as much, I'm not as familiar with this way. I don't use it as often. But you can just kind of mess around with it until you get it to look however you want. Yeah. Okay, that's cool. We'll go with that. And then you are going to do the same thing is go convert it to a multi-channel. So now it has recognized those names and it's converted or assigned both of those Pantone spot colors. And then the same thing, you'll just go to Save As. And then we'll do Test Duo. Save it as a Photoshop DCS the same exact way. Everything is the same. Hit OK. And now it's saved. So both of these methods, they'll both work perfect for. It just depends on what you want your image to look like. Yeah, a lot of it is just in aesthetics. They both function the same in the end. But yeah, it just kind of depends on what you're going for. But for Riso printing, these are two kind of good, quick and easy ways to convert from a full color image to 2 colors. Or if you're doing 3 colors or 1 color, it works great for those too. And it also is a good way for screen printing. If you're screen printing like a full color image, a good way to split those channels. But for risograph printing, this is a great method. Okay, cool. Hit me up if you've got any questions, email, Slack, whatever works for you. Alrighty, I'll see you around.